Hi, welcome to Let's Talk Midlife Crisis with your hosts, Traci
and Ashley.
Pull up your chair for your seat at the table today as we talk about everything that has to do with midlife crisis.
Or life.
Or life.
In general.
My gosh, yes. And it's so good to see you and to be here with you. I haven't seen you for a while.
Know.
And it feels funny. So I know a lot has happened since our last show.
A lot has happened.
A lot
for
with
both
you,
of us.
yes, and a lot with me as well. But we're happy to be here today, and thank you for listening. So I just got back from my trip to Italy. And yay, it was amazing. Went all over the place. Started in Rome, went down through Naples to Capri, and from Capri we took a day trip, a boat to the Amalfi Coast and Positano, which has always been a dream of mine since I first saw the movie Under the Tuscan Sun.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Although I have to admit, Capri was hands down to me much better than Positano. I think maybe I had built up Positano so much in my mind, or I didn't stay long enough, but hands down Capri is by far my favorite destination.
What did you like more about Capri?
Well, we stayed in an apartment right above the beach, one of two public beaches in Capri. We were steps away from a wonderful restaurant and shops, and as well as steps away from the beach and a bunch of other restaurants where they had outdoor lounging.
Oh.
So on the rocks with umbrellas, with service.
And the weather was amazing.
The weather was amazing, but by far one of my most favorite destinations, because the water, the color of the water, I can't even put into words. The blue was just more magical than I'd ever seen before. Off the Caribbean.
You've been to the Caribbean, okay.
Yes, and Mexico, Cancun, and all other places, Hawaii, that I've been. It was just amazing. The color of the water was just magical, and I don't know. I'm a beach person.
Oh yeah, so, me too. We're both water people.
Yeah. But then from Capri, we went up to Florence in Tuscany. Mm-hmm. Amazing. And then from Florence and Tuscany, we went to Milan, and then Milan back to Rome and flew out. Unfortunately, we missed our connecting flight on our trip home, so that added an additional 12 hours to our 15-plus hour
when you're already anxious
travel.
To get home from
so that was rough,
away.
And it kind of rung my bell a little bit. I think perhaps more than just the jet lag itself would have been.
Yeah.
Because
it's
I can't sleep on planes.
You don't know how or when you're going to get home.
Yeah, it was a little bit stressful, but we made it 12 hours later. But yeah, I would definitely go back to Italy if I had the chance. The food was amazing. People were great. And one of the things that I thought was funny was that some Italians that don't speak very good English were able to translate Spanish better than they could English.
Well, they're very similar languages, aren't they?
Yeah, very similar. And even though I didn't realize how little I knew of Spanish, but there I was able to communicate better in Spanish than I was in English, which to me was hilarious.
Wow.
But for the most part, most everybody understood English, and if not even sign language. So in Milan, they stopped serving food. Restaurants close at like 5 p.m.
Oh.
And then they don't open
early.
back up till like 7 or 8.
Wow.
So there's a big span there because of their wonderful lifestyle that they choose to live. But there's a big span there where you can't.
So they can go home and have dinner with their families?
I guess so.
Okay. Interesting.
I guess so, and it's something clearly that they're accustomed to. But
right.
So when we were walking around in Milan, we'd go into a restaurant and I would do the hand to mouth like food. So it wasn't even like I was, needing to speak Italian.
Right.
I feel like I got away with about 5 words. ciao and prezi, which is like thank you, and grazie, grazie is thank you, and prezi is like, oh, you're welcome, I guess. And, buongiorno, it's, just a few words. Sparkly, their water, you don't get water with your restaurant or with your meals. So if you order water, it's like sparkling or still. So still was a big one that I learned. But oh my gosh, the food was amazing. Everything was just amazing. We did a lot of touristy things and a lot of things, finding out what locals like to do, like the wine window.
Yes,
I did find a wine window in Florence. So I would definitely like to go back. There's other places I want to see on my bucket list, but I think definitely go back and spend more time in Capri.
Okay.
Just where I
think
lounge.
I need to go with you next time you go. It sounds amazing.
I think you do too. I think you do too.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
And so while I was off in Italy, your mom has come to stay with you.
She has, yeah. So my mom retired this year, and the plan was always to kind of have her come down and spend majority of her winters here. She lives in Utah, and the winters can be pretty brutal. Yeah, and the air quality is really poor, especially during the winter. It's, Salt Lake, for those of you that don't know, is kind of a valley and surrounded by mountains.
Gorgeous
and
mountains.
Winter, beautiful.
Gorgeous, yes.
Salt Lake is beautiful. But the winters can be very gray and drear, and, you get that cloud cover, and all that pollution is just trapped in that valley. And there's this terrible haze. You can see it when you fly in or even driving through it and just looking out, So it's just nice for her to get out of that and, not
the haze, is that pollution?
It is.
Like we have here.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Pollution that's trapped because of the cloud cover, and they're in this valley and there's no escape for it. They call it inversion. Anyway,
I call it you're not supposed to see air.
Yeah, exactly. And the cold weather can be really hard on your body,
right?
So no, it's really exciting that she's at this point in her life, and
you're able to.
We're empty nesters now, so we have the space, and she can come and hang out and do what she wants. My stepdad came down as well, and they just left today for Tombstone. So they're
one of my favorite places. Yeah. One of my favorite movies, all-time movies too.
Great movie.
With Val Kilmer.
Absolutely, and they've never been to Tucson, so they're going to stop in Tucson this afternoon and get something to eat and hit the shops, and then go on to Tombstone and stay overnight and see the famous,
OK Corral.
The shootout. Corral and the shootout and all that. So that'll be a lot of fun for them. Yeah. So it's really exciting. I'm happy for them.
Nice. And I know you bought a new house not too long ago. I remember when you had redid one of the bedrooms.
Yes.
Knowing that she was going to be coming down and spending more time with you. So, and like you said, how wonderful it is now that you're an empty nester to have the extra space and be able to personalize it just for them. I can only imagine how happy she is to be here out of that brutal cold.
Yeah, it's been great. I worry she's going home in about a week. She's hosting Thanksgiving. I have other family up there, and I worry that she's going to freeze her ass off. And I think she's worried about that too.
I bet she is. I bet she is.
You actually, acclimate pretty quickly when you're here.
Yeah.
And, she used to always give me such a hard time about getting cold when it was only, 55 degrees. And now she's that way because she's been here for a month. Yeah. And she's a little nervous about going back, but she'll be back again after the holidays. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah, it is hard to acclimate to our desert dry climate. I think one of the things people don't understand is how much fluids you have to drink to hydrate yourself in this dry climate.
How much humidity provides warmth.
Yes.
So 55 degrees here doesn't feel like 55 degrees in Salt Lake.
Right.
Because they have just enough humidity that it feels a little bit warmer.
Exactly.
When you're in the desert and there's no humidity, it feels a lot colder.
Right.
So So yeah, they tease us about it, but it's a real thing.
It is a real thing. It is a real thing. And I think too, just like your mom has so many people before her come from cold weather states, a lot of people from the Midwest that come out here and vacation or do an extended stay during the winter months.
Right.
And they fall in love with it and then they move here.
Yeah.
So we're experiencing that inflation from all of these, people,
I mean, it's good
snowbirds,
good and bad for our economy. But it's definitely made housing. I mean, we had very affordable housing for as big as Phoenix was
for many years, and we just took it for granted. That and COVID, right? Now that people are working remote, they're able to work from anywhere in the country. So they're choosing places, outside of LA, San Francisco, New York.
Expensive areas.
Right, that has more affordable
Even though
housing.
It's more expensive to us now, it's still much more affordable for them. So.
Right. And us, we live in Phoenix, Arizona, but now we're one of the top expensive places to stay where we were off the radar for so many years with low cost of living and low housing costs and less pollution back then. But again, it's 6 one, half dozen another, because then it's great for our, community, for the tourism and all the dollars that visitors bring in, and we host the Super Bowl repeatedly, and a lot of
just had the World Series, which sadly we lost.
We lost. That was sad. That was sad. And it's funny, I did look it up when I was in Italy.
Did you?
I did, because I'm in media, and I had actually purchasased in advance the wild card game and the World Series, because when you're out of office and you don't want to put too much on your backup, I was like, well, let's just buy it. If they don't advance, then those dollars go to the bottom line. But if they do, we're there. So it was like halfway through my trip in Italy, and I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder how the Diamondbacks were doing. And I was so surprised that they actually made it in the World Series.
They did. That was exciting.
It was a very exciting time for us.
I think it was really cool to see. There's so many young guys on that team right now.
Yes. It's a very young team.
Yeah, it was really cool to see them. And I think that they'll do pretty well next year. We'll see.
Think so,
because we
too.
do have a few older guys, and I don't know if they're going to stick around, but we'll see. But yeah, that was really exciting. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
Over 20 years.
Yes. Since we won the Super Bowl. That was super exciting. Luis Gonzalez, bottom of ninth, bases loaded, 2 outs. I mean, it's what childhood dreams are made of, and he lived through that. And he was at a lot of the games, and I think Randy Johnson was as well, who was a pitcher for the Diamondbacks at the time. And we were all I was super hopeful. When I got back, it was when the World Series started. We had eliminated, the previous competitor, the Phillies, in the postseason. And I just thought, this is our time. We're going to do it.
And it was really cool because, like I said, there's some young guys on the team. They're only 23 years old. So they weren't even old enough to see that when the Diamondbacks were in the, I mean, they might have watched it, but they're not going to certainly not remember it. So yeah, it was really cool. But
it was cool, but unfortunately,
the Rangers, I don't think have ever won either.
It was another feel-good story for them.
Right.
Not as important to us because it wasn't our home team, but
I do have to say I'm glad they didn't win at home, because that celebration would have been a lot more painful.
That's true
for the Diamondbacks team.
That's true, because they did have a lot of support. We were all there behind them. We've never had a winning franchise, but in professional sports besides the Diamondbacks, and like you mentioned, that was well over 20 years ago. So now I guess it's up to the Suns and the Cardinals and, to kind of step up to the plate as we, venture through the remainder of this year.
The Suns have lost their last 3 games, so we'll see.
So painful. So painful. And we just want to take a moment to thank you guys for joining us and to remind you that you can pull up your chair for your seat at the table and join us and chat with us on any of our social media channels or our website, letstalkmidlifecrisis.com. But as we catch up today, we just wanted to touch again on things that we are facing in our midlife, and One of those is, as it's popping up on the computer here, I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, my annual physical, yay, with my PC. And then I have another doctor's appointment on Tuesday with the pulmonologist.
That time of year.
That time of year.
I have my annual gynecology appointment. Yay.
Yay. So what do you have a list of questions that you're going to ask, or?
I think really what I want to kind of understand more is where I'm at in my journey of menopause as far as hormone levels, things like that. I don't really have a lot of concerns surrounding that type of health. There are some questions I have about arthritis, which I do have, is like very prominent in my family. And I have tendonitis as well. So it's just...
And are those becoming more prominent
as
you're aging?
They are. Yeah, definitely. And it's not... it used to be something that was triggered by vigorous activities, like working at lifting weights and things like that. And now it can be as simple as typing for too long on my computer.
Oh.
So it's definitely... and which is required in my job. So it's starting to affect daily activities, and I don't know if there's just certain things I can do as far as exercises or icing, or I don't necessarily want to start a medication,
right?
And I don't know that it's at that level yet. I don't know, but it's definitely something that's been in my family for years, and unfortunately I have it too.
Unfortunately.
And I'm pretty young to start having it get this serious,
impact your life in negative ways.
So I also want to know what I'm looking at in the future. Right. Am I looking at potential osteoporosis? Like, am I looking, what is it that I need to be aware of, and what can I do to at least slow it down or, make it better? Things like that. So I don't necessarily think that's who can answer my questions, my gynecologist, but
we ask them everything because
absolutely.
We can.
And if she can give me recommendations or referrals, then that's great. So, but yeah, I don't really have any major concerns.
Good. Good.
So,
but do they do blood work? Are you having blood work done and finding out where your hormone levels are?
Yes, definitely.
Are you taking any hormones supplements now?
I'm not doing anything really. Okay. I'm really not. I'm just kind of going with the flow, and fortunately my symptoms haven't been too crazy. A lot of the stuff that's happened has been very eye-opening for me. But, like we've talked about, the, physical changes, the facial hair,
facial hair, skin.
That's all to be expected. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of going with the flow, but I don't have any alarming, symptoms. So I'm not really too concerned about that. But it's also hard to know. I mean, I've been through a lot in the last few months with a lot of loss in family.
Right.
And some things with my kids that I've had going on. So I mentioned to you, I started therapy, and that's been really helpful. And I'm kind of going through all of that. So it's been kind of challenging to understand if, what I'm experiencing is because of all of that, or
it's so hard to tell.
It could be a lot of both, aging and, life, crisis in life, which is completely outside of the midlife crisis, but it's just things that...
An additional crisis added on to midlife crisis.
Absolutely.
And added on to menopause.
Yeah, it's been a lot. So, and, we haven't gotten together for a few weeks.
It's been a few weeks.
Yeah. But, we've both been going through some shit.
We have. Well, you'll have to keep me posted.
I will.
On what happens through your appointments. And I know for me, when I go to the doctor, it's been very helpful for me in the past to make some notes, because I go into the doctor's office and then you forget and I don't ask the right questions and all of that kind of stuff. So, and kudos to you for going through therapy.
Thank you.
I've thought about it a lot the last couple of years, more for myself so I can help others or my children.
That's where I was at. Yeah. I want to be a better mom. I want to be a better partner.
Yes.
And I just want to feel better about life and myself. And I just kind of felt like I could maybe use some direction with that. So
good. And do you feel, and you said you felt like it's helpful so far?
I do. I think I was very fortunate in in finding a really great therapist that I connect with.
Right.
She's really cool. I go in there and I feel like I'm just talking to a friend. Yet she has a lot of great feedback and insight. And, ironically, I've been to therapy a couple of times for tragic things that have happened in my life. And, it always goes back, let's talk about your childhood. And,
right.
And I didn't really have intentions of revisiting that this time. And here we are talking about my childhood every single time. But it's been really interesting this time because I feel like she has given me a completely different perspective than my other therapist did. And I thought they were great. They definitely helped me. But they were right off the bat quick to say, let's put you on Prozac and Xanax so that you can your moods can be stabilized and you can go to sleep at night.
Right.
This therapist has not done that, which I love.
Right. I love that too.
And she's really been helpful in bringing a lot of things to sight that I hadn't seen before. And we're actually next visit going to do some of that EMDR therapy. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No, I haven't heard of that.
It's really
what
interesting. I guess it has a lot to do with light movement, and it's kind of like a hypnotic type thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I told her, I said, I'm open to try anything.
Right.
If I don't dig it, then I'm not going to keep going forward with it, but I'm down to try it. So,
right.
So I'll let you know how that goes. We'll see.
Yes.
Apparently I know I had a traumatic childhood. Apparently I've downplayed it a little too much.
Okay.
And
maybe you're holding too much in?
Yeah, a lot of it. I think it's not necessarily resurfacing, but it's affecting the way that I handle trauma, which, as you know, I've been through quite a bit.
Right, in your
life,
yes.
I'm not always handling it in a healthy way. Not that it's been hurting other people or anything like that, but it's like I'm not really facing it and addressing it. I'm kind of ignoring it.
Okay.
And I can't keep doing that because it's really messing with me.
I definitely do that. I push stuff down.
Yep.
And I don't want to talk about it. Yes. I focus on that glass half full and not on any of the negative things.
Yeah.
But I'm just so happy that you're going to see someone and that you feel that connection and that positivity.
Mm-hmm. You should try it. I'm telling
you.
It can't hurt.
No, it can't hurt. It can't hurt. So can I ask you, and I'm curious to know, because through my past and my children, when I've asked them to do therapy, insurance doesn't seem to cover it or cover the ones that I want to go see.
Right.
So I was just curious, is it covered by your health insurance?
So my benefits are through my partner, who works for a great company that has amazing benefits.
Right. Major corporation.
Yeah. And we're not married, but fortunately they let you cover your domestic partner. And we get equal benefits. And crazy enough, this is very, very rare. Through this third party that they use, they have like a counseling service or a therapy service. We get 40 free visits.
No way.
Yeah. And the norm is 3 to 5.
Right.
We get 40.
Right.
So, and that's insane.
Right.
I mean, that could be years of therapy. So we're very lucky that way. It was an app that we downloaded. We did a quick survey, like, what are you feeling? What are you going through? That type of thing. And then they, at the end, give you a list of, recommended therapists based on what they feel your needs are. And so I kind of just went through and read some of their profiles that they wrote themselves. And it was about the 4th or 5th one down. I really liked what she had to say. And it just
connected with you at some level.
So a lot of companies offer that, bigger companies. Right. And I do know that once we run out of those free visits, that there is a portion that will be covered. But typically it's not a lot. Typically it's not a lot. You know, you're still paying $100 a visit or something like that. But I'm hoping, because I have so many free ones, that by the time I get to that point, I'm either not needing to go anymore or very rarely. Like now I'm going once a week.
And hopefully she'll be able to provide you the tools that you need. Yes. Because that was always it with me. And when my children were going, various children for various different reasons throughout their young adult lives, I would say, no problem. Unfortunately, the individuals that I chose for them, that they seem to connect with as well, weren't covered by insurance. And I was like, okay, it's fine. I'll just put it on a credit card. But here's the deal. get in, get the tools you need,
and get out.
and get out.
Yeah.
Because there's only so long you can sustain, especially if you have more than one child at a time going through therapy every week.
Exactly.
So I was just curious about that. And I definitely think that I could benefit from it. I think so many people could benefit from it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely look and see what your insurance covers and try to find someone in network.
Yeah.
Obviously,
right.
They'll cover a lot more of it.
But I think that connection, excuse me, and getting the tools that you need is a little, to me, more important than who's in network. But again, it's that sustainability of, a couple $100 for every hour, compounded weekly. I mean, it adds up quickly.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot of tools that perhaps I would be able to utilize.
Absolutely.
That I can help my family with, and just to be the better mother. We're the matriarchs of our families.
Exactly.
And, to help better guide them, because the world out there is just changing so rapidly.
Well, and you hold so much responsibility. You do that to yourself.
Right. All mothers do.
Which is fine.
Right.
That's fine. But you don't realize what it's doing to you physically and mentally.
Because we suppress it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's just
and
like,
we put on this
you're
happy
on
appearance.
autopilot.
And even to each other, we're like, oh, we're
and you're
good.
on autopilot. You're like, I'm going to, like, the next thing that comes up, I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to take care of it. And at some point, you kind of lose sight of taking care of yourself.
Definitely.
And that's one thing I have found. It was like, what are you doing to take care of yourself? And it was like, I kind of paused, like, well...
long pause.
Long pause. And I really had to think about it even after the session. It was like I had to write down, like, these are the things I do to relax. These are the things that I like to do.
Right.
How many of those things am I doing every day?
Right.
Maybe one.
Yeah.
Maybe, if I'm lucky, if I have time. And that's, I mean, you can't be for everybody if you're not taking care of yourself.
No. And that's one of the things I think most mothers struggle with. And especially as their children get older, like ours, and you become empty nesters.
And we're dealing with real life issues now, not little kid issues.
Right. And crisis. And
so we worry just as much, if not
more. I worry so much more because I don't have the control.
Exactly.
And you try to help and you just don't know. And the whole mental health of, this day and age has just gone by the wayside. People don't talk about it. My children don't like to talk about it because they have this negative stigmatism associated with it versus trying to get help for how they're feeling or their emotions and just to be stable. And right now, my focus is just, I want everybody to be happy. Like, life is so short.
Absolutely. And I want to make your life simpler.
Yes, and simpler.
I want to help.
Yes.
And at some point, you have to kind of put barriers.
You do.
And
when
say,
you're a parent,
say, you know what? I would love to help you with this right now, but I need this for me.
Right.
And I think that it's really helped my kids to see that I'm going to therapy. It's kind of like, oh, wow, mom's going to therapy. That's pretty cool. I didn't even think she needed it.
Right.
But I think it's kind of been eye-opening for them. Like maybe, and so now my son is going. And I think it really kind
of more open to
their
it
eyes
now.
To that. Yeah.
So. That's great. That's great. Like I said, I'm really concerned with the mental health of Americans these days. And so much that we put on ourselves, and so much for the young adults that we've raised.
And we should set the
that
example.
Are going to be taking over, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're trying to help them. This is a way to do it, to set the example and say, you know what? It's okay to go to therapy. You don't have to be crazy to go to therapy.
And no, you don't. We're definitely testament to that.
Right.
Definitely testament to that. Well, guys, that wraps up our show for today. Thank you for joining us on Let's Talk Midlife Crisis. Embrace the change.
Join the conversation on our website or Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Amazon Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you can find us.
Thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you next week on Let's Talk Midlife Crisis.